Now, Jeremy, I have a presentation coming up. I've got all my material done. I know it inside out. I'm prepared. However, I am nervous. And what can you suggest to combat the nerves?
Okay. Well, let me say first of all that it's good, in a sense, that you are feeling nervous. I think people that don't are perhaps in for a fall because they get complacent, they think they know everything, they assume that they're going to get it all right on the day, and maybe they overlook some critical pieces. So even professional sports people are nervous before the game of tennis or whatever it is that they're participating in. Nerves, however, can get the better of us, and that's not good when they overcome us. And then it becomes very much of a negative piece to deal with. Nervous tension that is negative can be a real hindrance. So let me talk to that. Okay, so there is a theory called the as-if theory. Now, the as-if theory goes along the following lines. If I act as if I am not afraid, I will feel internally not afraid. In the context of giving a presentation, if I act as if I am in charge, even before I give the presentation, then I'm going to feel in charge when I come to give the presentation. I'm in that mindset of feeling good about myself. So my first tip is greet the people at the door as they come in, shake them by the hand, have good eye contact, smile, introduce yourself as the speaker, get to know their first name, and then just point them forward to wherever there's tea or coffee and what time the presentation is going to start. The mere fact that you are doing those things will make you feel better. Let's face it, you've made contact with them, you've shaken them by the hands, there's already a bit of a relationship which should take away the fear, if you like, of them as a person. Which leads me to the next thing. The next trick that the mind plays on the presenter is that they're at the front of the room, standing up, perhaps going to be using some visual aids. They are separate, physically separate and apart from the group, the audience. They're over there, down there, you're separate. The mind plays the trick on you that they're the enemy. You see, they're just waiting for you to fluff that word. They're just waiting for you to lose your place. They're just waiting for you to go wrong, knock over that glass of water or what have you. And that is simply not the case. They are not the enemy. Actually, they've probably attended a good many presentations and are really hoping that this one is going to be good, it's going to be memorable, it's going to be enjoyable, and they actually want you to succeed. Let's face it, if you go to the theatre and somebody muffs their lines or loses their way, you actually find it a bit embarrassing, not only for them but for you. You don't want that to happen. You want them to do a good job. So the next thing is to convince yourself that they are not the enemy. Actually, they are your friends and they want you to do well. The next tip I can give to you is get off to a safe start. So a safe start is simply by pointing the way forward and getting those first few words out of your mouth in about the first 30 seconds. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As I've said to you earlier on, my name is Katie. I'm here to present to you for 30 minutes on whatever the topic is. I'm going to be using some PowerPoint slides to illustrate some key points. I would be grateful if you'd make a note of any questions or comments that you'd like to raise with me, and I'd be very happy to take those at the end of my presentation. So you've set out your agenda, there's nothing complicated in what you've said, and it's a safe start.
You just sort of framed it essentially.
Just framed it. And then you can take a pause and then you can start your presentation. One piece of advice I would give to you, never, ever, ever start with a joke. I've seen so many people come a cropper because they start by telling a joke and the audience don't laugh. A, because maybe the joke isn't very funny, but most importantly, they're not ready to be that familiar with the speaker.
It's too awkward.
Too awkward. But then, of course, the joke goes down badly and that makes them feel even worse and makes them feel even more nervous.
Oh dear.
So that would be my advice. You can always grow your humour through the presentation and see how it goes down. The next tip I would give to you is, and it's a presentation skill tip really, and you'll know this already, about lowering the tone of your voice. Gives you more authority, speaking more slowly, being more concise, using everyday language, being clear about the expression of what you're saying, all of those things, avoiding jargon and so on. Really important in the words, the content, and the vocal expression. Equally important, of course, is your body language, how you stand upright, and you move around slowly but easily, casually, not in a sort of rather jerky, speedy robotic way, and people are thinking, what on earth are you up to, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That you use hands and gestures. Just remember, when you use hands and gestures, you have to magnify them for the audience, because you're actually talking to, if you've got an audience of 50 people, you're having 50 one-to-one conversations with those individuals, but at one and the same time. So you have to magnify your hand movements and your gestures. Much better to have big hand movements from the arm rather than little hand movements from the hands themselves. And then, of course, there's eye contact. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that probably really helps to put you at ease, as well as the people who are watching your presentation. And it's a good way for you to gauge if they are actually engaged in what you're saying. And I think that further creates a relationship between yourself and your audience.
The audience. And one other little tip I would share with you, I always look for the smiler.
The smiler.
The person in the audience who's smiling and nodding, and it encourages me that what I'm saying is actually being well received, and I can in a sense feed off them and keep coming back to them, and then maybe other people open up in terms of a positive reaction to what I'm saying as well.
So how about those who are maybe a little disengaged?
Don't worry.
Okay.
I think the danger there is we are assuming that they're disinterested, they've switched off, or they're disagreeing with what I'm saying or with what you're saying. The chances are it may be none of those things, and they may just be thoughtful and taking on board what you're saying. So my advice is plow on.
Okay.
Don't worry if you seem to be getting apathetic.
Just push
or
through. Yeah.
Push on. Push through. Don't let that disturb you.
Yeah.
And you'll find at the end, it was probably not what you were thinking at all. I mean, when it comes to the question and answers, they're the first people off the mark with some really good questions. So yes, don't misinterpret maybe the body language signals that they're giving off. So there are just a few tips, but most importantly, act as if you are in charge, and it will shape your emotions and make them more positive. And the other things will then add on to that as well.
Some great tips. Thank you very much.
No, it's a pleasure.